invited dignitaries, delegates, students, and my dear friends. It's a great privilege and honor for me to be here to welcome and introduce the speaker, Dr. Swati Naik from International Rice Research Institute, Manila, Philippines, to deliver the M.S. Swaminathan Memorial Lecture. Dr. Swati Naik, an Indian scientist at the International Rice Research Institute, IRRI, is the recipient of the prestigious Norman Borlaug Award 2023 for field research and application, with the World Food Prize Foundation describing her as an outstanding young scientist. The award is given to exceptional scientists under 40 and someone who works in the field of food and nutrition security, hunger eradication, in memory of the Nobel awardee and Green Revolution's chief architect, Dr. Norman Borlaug. Dr. Naik received a PhD in competitive intelligence and strategic management for agricultural extension management strategy at Amity University during 2017 to 2022. A master's in rural management at the Institute of Rural Management, Anand, during 2008 to 2010. And a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture at Acharya N.G. Renga Agricultural University during 2003 to 2007. In DRR, has provided pivotal leadership in numerous global flagship programs on rice and rice-based food systems. She is also the global lead for rice and co-lead for cereal seed systems under the key initiative Seed Equal of CGIAR, a worldwide research partnership focused on agricultural food systems. Dr. Naik has organized more than 10,000 extensive on-farm tests for more than 500 rice varieties, working with thousands of smallholder farmers for these meticulously run trials across diverse ecosystems in different countries across Asia and Africa. From this massive effort, she disseminated more than 20 promising climate resilient and bio-fortified rice varieties. On behalf of Kerala's Science Congress Committee and all gathered here, I welcome Dr. Swati Naik for delivering M.S. Swaminathan Memorial Lecture. I also welcome all the dignitaries and delegates gathered here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I can operate the slides from here. Is this the one? Okay. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I can operate from here, right? Okay. This one? Yeah. It's okay. Or make it? Okay, no, I'll just have to stand. Okay. A very good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for having me here today. Esteemed organizers, Dr. Sudhir, for making me believing to come here and, experience this, Science Congress, and Dr. Soumya, and all the dignitaries, and, the audience. Today happens to be coincidentally a great day for our country, for all of us who believe in science, for all of us who are committed for agriculture, food and nutrition security. And yeah, it sounds like a personal gain actually. So because our country is going to award our Professor Dr. M.S. Swaminathan the posthumous Bharat Ratna, and that has been in news. So let's celebrate this moment as a tribute to him. And nothing can be great moment than this, that we are having this memorial lecture today. So it happens to be a coincidence, or you say it is what we call the auspicious moment. Well, I am working in seed system development and varietal delivery programs in International Rice Research Institute, and I look after rice or mostly cereal crops, and to ensure that the genetic gain, which is embedded in a variety in its development, during its development, is delivered in the farmer field. But what we can say that, like when we reflect back to the era of Green Revolution, and then we know the importance of arrival of different high-yielding varieties that created food security in our country. We have heard and read about the stories of Dr. Norman Borlaug, Dr. Swaminathan, and how the entire advent of different high-yielding varieties, be it IR8, be it the dwarf white wheat variety, and how it led to multiplied effect in terms of increasing the productivity of our so-called food grains, be it rice and wheat. In that era, when getting 400 grams per day per capita food was getting difficult to feed the nation of millions, this kind of arrival of multiple high-yielding varieties created opportunities, created food sufficiency in our country. And we cannot ignore the scientific research that is dedicated towards development of such varieties in due course of time as well. However, definitely, what remains to see that whatever scientific innovation is happening, be it through our breeding or genetic innovation programs, be it to any other scientific innovation programs, that reaches to the farmers. So making sure to create a path that connects our laboratories or our research stations to the land of farm, and also to create a further path from land to market to ensure that it is just not a mere livelihood or an avenue to secure food for a household, but also to give income opportunity to them. We need to look at these two critical pathways further. Otherwise, there remains great scientists, there remains great scientific innovation, but not necessarily that reaches to the farmers or reaches to the end users who need them the most. And that was something which Dr. Swaminathan housed throughout his life. And if we go by the entire process of how high-yielding varieties or germplasms arrived from Mexico to India, or how many new high-yielding varieties at that era got, developed, being crossed with different varieties of India. But what they did not forget, the importance of extension, the importance of creating those stakeholders, those institutions and actors who would be taking this further, scaling it further, and making sure that adoption is happening. The whole concept of farmer scientists, the whole concept of community mobilization, seeing as believing, was the steering force for science. Often today's day, a lot of youngsters, when they try to, choose different careers of science, somehow, a lot of streams of science are looks like a more lucrative, or I would say more glamorized options for them. But a lot of things that created change at that era was also related to that connected extension pathway with our different upstream or back-end research like breeding, genetic innovation, and etc. But those stakeholders were also became critical in the pathway to scale the technology to the farmers or to the end users as such. So when particularly I, being a seed system expert, works closely with the breeding programs, so what we believe that a lot of varieties have been developed. If I take account of India or Bangladesh as such, as on today, more than 1,500 high-yielding rice varieties have been developed. But you go and look at the seed indenting, the seed chain, the market demand, how many farmers are growing. So that is very handful. A lot of investment probably goes to identifying, releasing, registering a particular variety, but at the end, if we are not seeing them being used, that also create a question on our return on investment in science. Now, if only handful of products are capturing 70 to 80% of our market share, that doesn't mean always that the varieties which were developed are not good. Often, right positioning, right timely access, that is constraint. Information and awareness, that is also constraint. And at the end of this nexus, creates like low adoption, low varietal replacement, which we look for, and overall, low access to quality seeds, especially to the smallholder farmers. When I talk about rice, globally evidence says poverty, rice growing area, smallholder farmers, these are all interlinked nexus that exist. And in order to break that, we need to ensure all these innovations are getting delivered to them. If I keep aside everything for a smallholder farmer who may not be able to afford too much of investments in high-end technology, machinery, equipment, inputs like fertilizers or other nutrient management, but if he or she can access quality seed, at least 15 to 20% of the productivity of him or her is assured. Now, in the era of Green Revolution, our primary goal or driving goal and objective was to enhance the productivity. I'm not saying that goal doesn't remain, it remains. However, the needs of the time is changing and we are looking forward to product which has more value added traits or which has more benefits to offer to the humankind. And that includes traits like climate resilience. How do we secure our yield in the situation where we are facing a lot of abiotic stresses like flood, drought, salinity, and multiple stresses? Because that is only increasing, and we know that this is going to create a lot of vulnerability trap for smallholder farmers over the years. So how do we have those traits in a variety, not just the yield enhancement as being the primary goal? And talk about nutrition, health aspects. We are talking about rice eating zones, and we all I belong to Odisha, you all are from the region, South India, and we know that rice eating and the whole entire socio-cultural setup is so interlinked. But at the same time, diseases like diabetes, obesity, and all those are also becoming concerns for all of us. So how we can also look after new generation germplasms which will have low glycemic index or ultra low glycemic index? How can we also have new generation germplasms which can have micronutrients like zinc or like iron and other nutrients embedded? So our next generation research program is gradually shifting towards adding different traits which is beyond yields. But at the same time, we are trapped in a catch-22 situation that our varietal turnover or replacement rate remains to be poor. So now, the land area remains constant. It's not going to increase. Maybe due to urbanization and etc., it might reduce. And every year we are having 50, hundreds of high-yielding varieties getting released through the different research programs and different national institutions. And then we see only handful of products being in the market or being available. So we need to also understand seed cannot be only considered as an input. Seed has to be also considered as a product which has to be competitive against an older product to remain in the seed chain. And that has to meet a constant area to be grown. So more and more products are coming, so more and more replacement strategies has to be also evolved so that farmers are getting better products irrespective of the older 40-year, 30-year variety or any high-yielding product which has been not addressing different existing challenges of them. In order to do that, they need to ensure that they have information, access, and awareness about these varieties. So when we found that it sits at a crossroad of being an input and a product itself, and we want to ensure that the new innovations in terms of germplasms are reaching to the end users, we really wanted to start it from scratch. We cannot leave behind the research program that is happening in breeding and genetic innovation. When I say we, I represent the stakeholder community who works in the extension, scaling, strategy and development, and to ensure that community or the farmers are having access. So considering myself as a social scientist, I always felt that we need to start from that time when the planning, the concept development or designing of the varieties breeding programs are starting. We need to take back the stakeholder feedbacks which we have collated through our various exercises over the years, and have to ensure that only the best of best varieties are going out or getting accessed by the farmers. Because if I am a researcher, I develop my own variety, I'm a scientist, I will always think high about my innovation. We all have our scientific myopia. We all think that our publication, our outcomes, or our outputs are really great. But what is wanted or needed by the farmer, or how do we contextualize that thing, that has to be neutrally evaluated. So hence, as an entry point, we started a process of linking closely our extension researchers and scientists in the national system with our genetic innovation, or you say upstream researchers or the breeding researchers who are working. We brought them together to speak common language, but also to have a demarcation that independent evaluation of different varieties are done through farmer-led approaches. A lot of varieties get registered and released, and definitely there are a lot of trialing happens, but those numbers, those locations, those replications are so small that it can never be reliable. Because the microenvironment, the social, ecological landscape is so varying in our country that we cannot simply rely on, say, 5 to 6 trials run and then getting a variety registered and released. So we need to also ensure that what we are providing an option or choice for the farmers to trigger a decision in his or her mind that I will get rid of my 40-year-old released variety and bring in a new variety, and that adoption behavior change is really a rigorous process. We have to be very sure and evidence driven. And these on-farm adaptive testings which we designed, those were farmer-led under farmer management conditions. So no optimization, no optimal package of practices being reinforced and imposed, leaving it entirely to the available resources and capacity of the farmers, purely testing the actual genetic gain, actual performance of a new variety which a breeder has bred, was the overarching goal of running so many hundreds and thousands of adaptive trials for different varieties. When we did it, we also did it a grouping based on the market segment. Now here comes the concept from input to the product. Now a farmer may like a variety for different reasons, but if the miller is not ready, because he or she sees that the milling or husk recovery percentage of this grain is less, so it will not give me volume. So the external push, which will ensure that whether the grain which are produced by the farmers will be procured in the value chain or not, is also very critical. So it is essential that we also keep in mind the market-driven consumer preferences, what the current consumers are looking after, and who are the stakeholders who are taking the shorter call over that what will remain in the seed chain or value chain or not. So connecting those links were necessary. So when we were running our multi-location on-farm testing led by the farmers, we are grouping competitive products as per particular market segment. So we identified different market segments in a country like India. It's so vast, probably we identified different market segments, and then we talked to different breeding institutions across the country to get their nomination in that particular market segment. Randomized it, blindfolded evaluation everywhere. We just connected, and the evaluators were the extension agencies of the country, be it our KBK systems, be it our Department of Agriculture, be it our NGO stakeholders. So they were the ones who did not develop those varieties. They were the one who were working with the potential adopters of the society. So connecting these two stakeholders to run a comprehensive on-farm testing was one of the first major science-driven approach. And every season and every year, when we sit together collectively through an advancement meeting, we bring in these two pillars, these two stakeholders together to deliberate and see the data and evidence and decide that what we can position and scale, what we can discard. Now, when we have robust evidences, how do we scale that thing? We know probably in this particular market segment, this variety is really going to stay for long or benefit the farmers. This is chosen by the farmers, driven by the evidence. But now the time is to create the demand, create the information, and create the access of the seeds of those varieties, because we want to make sure that remains in the marketplace viable. Hence, we also created different participatory approaches, engaging farmers, men, women farmers, market actors, who would be able to visualize, rank, score, and select different options given to them. Maybe we are bringing 2 to 3 options, they are doing equally good or better, or a little bit of differences there. But let them jointly evaluate and see, visualize that what is going to work for them. So such kind of participatory, client-oriented varietal cafeterias were one of the most popular platform that became mainstreamed in different extension programs in the countries, and a lot of states started emulating that thing. At the same time, we also tried to create community-led varietal seed clusters. We all understand when a variety release happens and it is registered this year, streamlining the early generation seed, that is the breeder seed and multiplication, might take many years. Lot of national institutions who are entitled to produce the seeds of those varieties may not have enough capacity, just like multinational companies who deal with seeds and inputs, to aggressively produce, multiply, and supply the seeds. They might take their own time to streamline those kind of production volumes. In that case, if we lose the momentum after putting up a demonstration and exit as an extension actor or institution from there, then probably we are losing a momentum, then another new product is there. So there is high chance that a promising product is shelved just because we did not ensure timely access. Hence, decentralizing the access, engaging the community could be also done by integrating with the mainstream traditional extension methods, which is like, demonstrations, showcasing, and etc. But what about seed increase? So why can't we integrate these demonstration plots to become the seed production plots by training those farmers? We all believe in the concept of farmer scientist. If they have access to good knowledge, capacity, and skill, they can also produce much better quality of seeds, or at least equally good quality of seeds like any scientist. So we believed in that and trained them through collectives to ensure that they are maintaining their own varietal clusters. And at the same time, as a demand creation effort, it was very important to engage with actors like agro dealers, millers, and also to certain extent our consumer as a group, to be ingrained in the entire evaluation or demand creation processes. Now, even though we have created demand awareness about the technology, say a particular variety in such case, what about the supply? A lot of the time, supply, service provisioning, access is an issue of any novel technology to scale or getting adopted. That remains. Infrastructural challenges can remain, human resource challenges can remain, technological know-how or capacity related challenges can remain. So in the entire scenario, if we are unable to ensure the access or the supply chain of this technology or the variety or the seed being streamlined, then probably we are losing the momentum. Hence, partnerships were fostered to ensure that seed enhancement is happening very quickly, and that partnership also included alternative institutions. Now, when we talk about seed system in India as a broad or many developing countries, we see in our records and documents a clear demarcations of formal and informal system. For crops like rice, wheat, we say that 30 to 40% is only formal and rest of the things are farmer saved seeds. Now, whether we say it's seeds or whether we say it is on, saved grains, but the situation is that the 60% of the volume of seed that gets circulated to grow the next crops for these kind of crops are actually not quality assured seeds. So in this context, when we have these things, there remains a room of a lot of alternative systems to emerge. That's what we call the semi-formal seed system, where we are trying to basically leverage the power of community by collectivizing them and bridging the gap between formal and informal system through institutionalization. So we saw that a lot of social mobilization has already happened in nooks and corners of different countries through different flagship programs. There remains an opportunity to leverage these institutions to help them, capacitate them to get into something like very technical, market-driven activities like seed production and business. So we saw the room. It didn't only increase the access of quality seeds in a localized manner, but it created significant economic opportunity for those community players or those farmers who came forward to be part of this kind of endeavors. And that created a large number of alternative institutions to coexist along with our traditional seed corporations, beej nigams, seed companies, or small and medium enterprises. But these community farmer-led institutions were also seen to be emerging fast as alternative seed institutions getting into seed business. And when we did it, we ensured that we built their skill to a certain level that this is not just a low-hanging fruit for them. As a scientist or as different, representing many technical areas of, agriculture, we have the most comfortable ground for us is that I go and we train some of the stakeholders in the technology aspect, like quality seed production, or how to run a machine, or how to do a calibration of a machine. These are the low-hanging fruits, what we as a technology provider can teach them. But most of the times, in case of rural enterprise or opportunities around that suffers because an emphasis was not given to trainings and capacity related to market, business development, and also regulatory matters. Those are the hardest nut to crack for these, the smallholder farmers who do not have the so-called negotiation power or the network to go and talk to those stakeholders, to talk to a seed license giving officer, to a quality inspection officers, how to get my seed lot certified or approved for the next level labeling or something, to talk to a aggregator, to talk to a machine provider for processing and etc. Those negotiation skills, those informations, those linkages are completely missing for these alternative institutions. So the training of comprehensive these aspects alongside the technical is, I would say, more important, because for providing technical knowledge, probably there will be significant, officials available through different programs, but making them sure, hand-holding them in this aspect was the criticality for success. And when we foster this kind of institutions on the forefront, those were the women. Those were the women-led institutions, and we saw the maximum number of women-led institutions flourishing under this kind of programs, becoming seed entrepreneurs, collective or individual entrepreneurs. While we are talking about the importance of extension, we are talking about importance of disseminating information and awareness about the technology, we need to ensure that our stakeholders are not just men, or our stakeholders are not homogeneous. They can be very different. There could be millions of smallholder farmers whose literacy level can be very low. They women, there are cultural barriers or distinctions. So when we develop knowledge materials or information tools for them, we have to make those inclusive. We have to respect the sociocultural fabrics. We also have to ensure that, even that they are able to use those things. So for example, if I go and produce and circulate some training manual on quality seed production, which is extremely text heavy and carries a lot of scientific jargons and technological jargons. For them it is jargons. So then it becomes very difficult for them to have that recall value or utility value. And that doesn't remain or sustain for long. We train, we come back, and they forget to apply it. So hence, designing communication materials which are gender inclusive, which are community centric, which is easy to use, were our goal. So remove all text, make pictorial, make visual, and make it a mode of learning which remains with them, even if the trainers who are going to train them in 1 or 2 training courses are not there for long with them. So they can refer to those information manuals and can be self-sufficient and have that access. Then, in the process of extension, we cannot ignore the importance of disruptive innovation or disruptive technology. So be it digital innovation or be it in different forms of innovation, we also try to innovate tools which digitize the demand indenting system, which is currently very cumbersome in our countries and our specific provinces. So some of the provinces started piloting it, where we made it more efficient, transparent demand indenting system, getting rid of paper or multi-step cumbersome process, which is neither reliable, but it also takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. Engaging the indenters in form of seed aggregator, primary agriculture cooperatives, registered dealers. So those kind of dashboards and MIS were created to help different seed producing agencies to have reliable information source or market intelligence source. So most of the public sector organizations probably doesn't stay competitive in marketplace because they cannot invest in creating market intelligence like their counterparts in private sector or multinational companies. So innovating such tools for those institutions have a much role, in creating a tremendous capacity in the system to follow. And we also did not forget that knowledge which we were creating is just not for few pockets or few stakeholders. Science should not have any geographic boundaries, and we should foster regional cooperation. When it comes about seed access, transferring the genetic gain to the farmer field, a lot of similarity remains among the farmers or ecosystem of different neighboring countries. A farmer sitting in Assam or West Bengal and a farmer sitting in the bordering country of Bangladesh, they almost share similar ecological condition. So if a scientist, agriculture scientist is developing a miracle variety in India, and it's just few inches or few kilometers away beyond the fence, another farmer is not able to access that kind of miracle variety, even though they have similar needs, similar landscapes, similar opportunities. So probably somewhere we are failing as a scientific community. So this policy of Seeds Without the Border by ERI 10 years ago that was brought in, it was also breaking stereotypes by allowing a lot of germplasms to get re-released in member countries without going through years of trials and testings and release processes. If the ecology fits, if the demand comes in, through this agreement, through an MOU, it can be easily in few months can be done. That created opportunities for all the countries, member countries. To give an example of latest release in 2023, we actually could release 2 high micronutrient zinc-rich rice varieties in India, which were high yielding. We are always seeing in our breeding program that the zinc content and the yield were showing negative correlation. So even though we say that, okay, it is a nutritious rice variety, but for the farmers or the producer, the tangible outcome in terms of yield was not being seen. So it was a trade-off. So the adoption rate was always having a problem until and unless government subsidize it or government, give a buyback guarantee in MSP and etc. And it doesn't happen everywhere. So we were struggling to position few varieties, but then we discovered that our neighboring countries are already, ahead, developing some of the very high yielding and high zinc varieties, and then we just imported through this, leveraging this policy. So it was indeed that moment when we realized that, the benefits of such kind of regional cooperation in science that plays. Now to sum up, in the entire a case which I established today about our interventions around the seed system or the varietal development, the majority of work of this also which led to my award last year. Some of the transformation what we started doing over here was that we did not de-link market and society. Often taking ahead, our socialist and capitalist thought as a separate thing, we often think that this cannot go together. But it was necessary for some of the technology to be stable and be accessible. We have to include and integrate our market and society model. And the other critical thing what we did is that we created close linkage and interaction between the research and extension arms of the national system. And we created forums, platforms, and language which were very common for all of them to sit together, have a discussion, and agree upon different modalities and etc. And multidisciplinary team and large number of ground level stakeholders and partners were some which we took consideration. And the principles which we followed were inclusive, participatory. We created forums and platforms and models which could respect diverse choices of the stakeholders, including men and women farmers, and also other communities beyond farmers like the market actors together. So these are a few steps which we took to create a comprehensive pathway from lab to land and also land to market while disseminating improved germplasms bred by different breeders, different geneticists across the country or across the region. So we believe that, when agriculture, as the quote goes by Dr. Swaminathan, when agriculture fails, everything else fails. So it is a very critical science area where we need a perfect amalgamation of science, society, and also market. Thank you very much.
Your models of varietal dissemination. Did you have first ranking given to socio-economical, cultural, and institutional factors?
Yes.
I'm not saying marketing alone. Because take Kerala, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Kerala, the land area under rice has come down like anything, that we pay 30 to 35 rupees per kg, and our good friends also will continue to do it because it's not profitable. And I'm sorry to say, anybody in the agriculture department, there is no system now where technology is transferred. basically giving credit. So the problem with what Kerala has done, I didn't work totally on agricultural extension, even though I am basically an agriculture man. But I have found from farmer participatory approaches, the concept itself is vague without identifying some of the things which you have done. What is your opinion about Kerala? Have you studied Kerala?
Well, my knowledge about Kerala is limited. Please excuse me for that. But I have extensively worked in Eastern India, where there is predominant smallholder farmers. And as you understood that, the reason why I added the most often, our extension tagline is lab to land. That is what we all have been familiar. The other terminology why I brought in my title was lab to market was the reason of something which you were indicating about Kerala, but we also noticed in different Eastern Indian pockets where we saw that a lot of rice growing economy of the farmers do not find it as a viable economic option, right? And at the same time, MSP is something which doesn't happen always, and most of the cases, it varies every time. So hence, we were seeing, involving in seed sector, we are seeing seed is also another income generating opportunity as an enterprise, because that gives them more value than what they will do as by selling rice as a produce. So that is an angle which we brought in, because that was also needed, because our seed replacement rate is around 20 to 30% in many smallholder pockets, and there was a market potential. So if we can bring in more institutions, because a lot of, if I say private stakeholders, they mostly deal with hybrids. They have their crop segments like, vegetables, other crops and segments. But if you see, most of these inbred crops, which are smallholder crops, like rice, wheat, those are dominated by our public sector organizations and etc. They are not equipped with a lot of market intelligence, not equipped with that kind of delivery channels also to reach timely, or doesn't invest in positioning, demand creation and etc. So hence we felt that it is necessary that we create alternative institution to coexist, so that the power of public, not as such public sector organization, but also community enterprises, that together becomes up in the radar and become a more force to have those things. So definitely the market was a driving factor, and as I said that our product pooling, when we did, I said that seed is just not an input, it is a product, let us consider it. So when I segmented and grouped these things, they were driven by market segments. How did we did the market segment is another long story of market research which we did. And we created market segment depending upon the consumer needs or the area multiplied and how much. And we said that probably we cannot focus on each and every farmer, but we know that this kind of product has a higher export market, or this kind of product has a consumer demand. So we created market segment, started with breeding. We told the breeders, breed for this market segment, not just for your, we can do research, we can get many products and acknowledge our contribution to the society, but then again, market is not absorbing that kind of product. So we kind of created that approach in the whole process.
How far these breeders are compatible? One more question, I will not, with the so-called participatory approach. I am not saying Philippines, other states of India. Give me a frank answer.
Sir, participatory varietal selection has been a new, older practice, but somehow we have not followed to the extent which we should have done. And also the reason why we carried out so many thousands of on-farm adaptive testing was the reason that the number of trials what we do even before releasing and registering a product, that is not reliable. That is more research-station driven, that is more breeder driven, that is not more farmer driven. So hence, if I can create, say, 30 replications in each of the geographic clusters and etc., probably it is statistically evidence, but what I am creating also diverse opinions from the farmers on what they are liking and not liking. If a variety having a higher yield, but it has a scattering issue, yeah, so. We have tried our bit, and we have been able to successful to work with many institutions.
Yeah, I'm not saying IRI, but other states in India.
No, no, I'm just saying, ERI doesn't release variety, sir. So what I'm saying...
Anyway, leave it, madam. It's almost
Yeah,
most time. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes, sir.
Dealing with the traditional varieties, whether you have any access and benefit sharing model developed in your
Yes.
and when dealing with the high yielding varieties, how you deal with the PVP of different countries? PVP, that plant variety protection rights.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe I am not sure that how I answer your question, but about the traditional rice, which you said that, we are having parallel programs or the traditional rice conservation and access and selection. Some of the work which we have been doing is around Kala Namak, and also we are collecting some of these Johar rice in Assam and some of the traditional rice accessions in Odisha. We are in discussion with the government. There remains a lot of potential and interest from the stakeholders that how we create opportunities and revive this space as well. And this is something, a futuristic research area which I am personally keen or looking forward to, so as our team. And right now we are busy in collecting a lot of accessions, a lot of gene banks in different corners of our country, lying idle with products in the minus 20-degree storage and etc. So we are talking to them, get those and have the selection and purification. And then it is important that lot of evidences are actually missing. Documents are missing, like, to say that this variety has a climate resilience trait, this variety has this nutrition, or this yield trait and etc. So that characterization is something very important, and we are now aiming for a detailed characterization of these kind of land races. But apart from that, the next important thing will be available. Once we do a characterization, we know that which we can mainstream in the seed chain, bring them back and revive them, follow this licensing model of PPBRF, and then do, production chain. But one thing is that there is evidence trade-off in yield compared to what high yielding varieties are doing. So we need to also look after the value chain engagement over here, that how we position our products. Like for example, Kala Namak, Kala Jeera, they are having premium pricing or positioning strategy to have that trade-off being adjusted for the grower to give that incentive, because obviously yield will be less, but what they can incentivize is to pricing and positioning. Hence the characterization and selection has to be very critical, where we aroma or any kind of unique selling property has to be brought in to sell, not just only based on yield or climate resilience, but for the consumer side, what they are like, whether some are ready to pay premium for black rice, purple rice, those kind of scented rice and etc. So that premium pricing and value chain would be another area of focus, should be our priority.
This present day challenge for the rice. Basically now we are concerned about the soil fertility. So the application of fertilizer is no more encouraged. Okay. Second thing is pesticide. So third one, you rightly mentioned that consumer and market. These three scenario, what is that, because 30 years we have been breeding. You yourself have sold so many varieties. So is it, what is the positioning for the future of breeding? In such a 30 years of research in our country, almost all data is available. Is it all the present way of breeding is required? Or what is has to face the challenge? That means, like my colleague earlier mentioned, Kerala, the rice production is not profitable. So that's a reality, but we don't accept it. So nowadays in the present world, if not economically viable, nobody is going to practice it. So in this background, maybe International Research Institute and yourself, what is the positioning? Our multitude of institutions are simply breeding for the breeding sake. Okay, so institutions like yours should come frankly, whether is such a understanding is there on as a researcher on your part. Let us stop this namesake breeding scenario, and then the varieties we developed, even in subcontinent or Thailand or Vietnam, all these things comes in the Asian, isn't it? So is it not repetition and without a focus we are doing? What is your take on it?
Absolutely. You see this diagram, is it visible? No? don't know. Okay, yeah. Okay, you see this funnel diagram, sir? This is a diagram what we created or launched in ERI and National Network Breeding. But if you see the broader, it is exactly what happening at national level is the reverse. Reverse. It is a narrowed funnel. We are doing the reverse. It's like this. So basically what is happening right now that our varietal development is mostly driven by often a research objectives which may not be market driven. So we allow a lot of varieties to be selected going into the methods different testing, different state level national ABT CBT trials and get released. So we do not have a floodgate system yet. This is something probably industry captured long back because they had incentive, they cannot afford to breed so many products and going it wasted when market is not absorbing. They want return on investment. However, in our public sector breeding, the incentive system is not so. So we go as like, if I breed, my publication is done. I have bred, so my incentive system is that when in my CV it is written as how many varieties I have bred or how many publications I had. Yeah, so we are trying to create this funnel, a tightened, stage gate process where we say that exclusive germplasm must go for release, and those exclusive germplasm must carry value-added trait which market is looking for. Be it grain quality, be it some other nutrition aspect, be it aroma and other thing, and not just yield. So this is started. We are bringing in more and more stakeholders to join, and we hope through the advocacy and what we are trying to communicate that let us not breed just for the sake of breeding, breed to benefit the stakeholders or benefit the consumers or benefit, remain in the marketplace. So in this way, we are trying to create very limited exclusive value-added products to go to the breeding. So this is one approach which we have been pioneering over last 3 to 4 years, not more than that. When we are running a decade-long program, and this is a cultural change, basically. So we are now advocating it with different national breeders to shift to this model, because even though we are a public sector organization, even we are not business oriented, but our programs should be efficient. Our programs should be driven by the deliverables. Sorry. Yeah, so many is not required, sir, only exclusive. I would say that no. Yeah. So many are not required. I absolutely agree.
So, thank you so much, ma'am, for that insightful lecture. I request Professor K.P. Sudhir, the Executive Vice President of KCST, to present a memento to Dr. Swati Naik as a token of our love and gratitude. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. May I now invite Dr. Reshmi TR, the Senior Scientist of KCST CWRDM, for the word of thanks.
Distinguished Speaker, Dr. Swati Naik, Dr. Anil Kumar, Senior Principal Scientist, KCST, dignitaries among the audience, and dear delegates, good afternoon to you all. This memorial lecture is meant not only to commemorate the revolutionary contribution of Professor Swaminathan towards ensuring food security in the country, but also to hold the promise that the transformation is continued by luminaries like Dr. Swati Naik. Professor Swaminathan advocated for a creation of a food vault as a safety net for the food security under climate change. In the same line, Dr. Swati Naik today presented the need for promoting decentralized control of quality assured seed production. Madam, On behalf of everyone, and thank you for introducing us to the innovative and integrated market segment-driven genetic innovation and its challenges towards addressing the climate change. Thank you, ma'am. I thank Dr. Anil Kumar, Senior Principal Scientist, KSC, for welcoming the audience and introducing the speaker. Thank you, sir. I also express my gratitude to the audience for a lively session and interaction. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll now move on to the next session of today, the Kerala State Young Scientist Award presentation. As you have seen in the morning we have two awards by Dr. S. Murali of ICAR CIFT Kochi and Dr. Harsha Bajaj of CSAR NIIST Thiruvananthapuram. So may I now invite Dr. K. Vijay Kumar, the Principal Scientist of Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, to welcome the gathering.
Respected dignitaries among the audience, my dear friends and students. Today we gather here to celebrate the remarkable achievement of our young scientist awardees. Two of the scientists working in Kerala awarded the prestigious award of Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, that is the Kerala State Young Scientist Award. Their dedication, passion, and relentless pursuit of the knowledge that inspires us all. In a world that faced with the complex challenges from climate changes to global health crisis, it is the duty of these young scientists to offer hope to the society and solution to the problems. The creativity of these young scientists has no bounds, and their willingness to push the boundaries of what is possible also has no limits. Science and technology innovation holds the key to solve the most pressing problems of the world and improving the lives of the people everywhere. The KCST has a pivotal role in this regard and effectively intervening the social issues and promoting research and development in the state. Here, the KSCST, the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment, proudly presents two KSYS, two Kerala State Young Scientist awardees. They have awarded last January 31st, and they will present their work here. So I am welcoming these two young scientists for presentation. First of all, Dr. Murali from CSAR SIFT will present his contributions. Thank you.
Check that. Good afternoon, and all present over here. Before going into this presentation, let me briefly introduce myself. Myself, Dr. Murali, working as a scientist at Central Institute of Fisheries Technology, Cochin. And I run my UG BTech Agriculture Engineering from Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Coimbatore, and done my Masters and PhD from ICAR, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi. And from 2016, I am working in ICAR CIFT Cochin. And at this juncture, I sincerely thank KSCTC for selecting me for this Kerala State Young Scientist Award for the year 2023. With this, I will proceed to my presentation. Basically, I am working on, there are two aspects. One is application of solar energy for the fishery sector. Basically, Central Institute of Fisheries Technology is having a work on developing indigenous equipments, gadgets for the purpose of harvesting and post-harvest processing of fish and fishery products. In this particular juncture, being an engineering background, I am working on developing indigenous equipments for the post-harvest fishery sector. That is, once the fish is caught, how it has to be processed. For a simple example, developing a gadget for removing scales of the fish. So, one such innovation what we are doing there at developing dryers, fish dryers basically, which are based on solar energy. So, one particular dryer is solar LPG hybrid dryer. Why we are to go for hybrid drying systems, machine-based systems? Basically, in India, about 20% of the fish which is coming to the shore is going for drying purpose. Either it is for inland consumption or it is for the export purpose. By keeping the as well as heat transfer fluid. So, keeping this in mind, we have developed a system here. We are storing the water in a tank. It is an insulated tank. We are storing the water. This particular water will be circulated to the collector, that is thermal collector on the top of the drying system. When it is moving in the collector, due to the sunshine, the water will get heated up. You can see in the slides where the blue color is the cold water, red is hot. So when the water is moving on the collector, it gets heated up. The heated water will come on the store on the same tank. And due to the density difference in the water, the hot water will be on the top of the tank. So that hot water is separately taken, pumped to the drying chamber where you have a radiator setup, heat exchanger. So when the water is going in and coming out, it will release the heat to the drying air. So we will have a fresh air inlet. It will be blown against the heat exchanger. So heat will be taken to the fresh air. That will get heated up to the drying temperature about 60 degrees Celsius. The hot water will be about 80 degrees Celsius. Then this system will continuously do. Suppose we are not getting sufficient sunshine and it is a continuously rainy day, we will have a LPG backup. Just like in your household, we have a LPG gas stove. Similarly, we have a gas geyser here, and this is a automatic system. We set a temperature, I wanted about 80 degrees Celsius in the tank, insulated tank. And when it is not 80, the LPG system also will work simultaneously. Solar also will work. If no solar, LPG has to fully work as a backup. So this particular device, we also made one more innovation in it. The collectors are placed in a standard position. Generally, when you look at the literature, the collectors are facing east to get more sunshine. But what is the issue when the sun is moving? The noon time it will be on the center, and the evening it will be on the other side. So we made a system automatic. Automatic also could be done with a solar sun tracker. We have done keeping the cost involved in it. We made it into 3 positions. In the morning time, it will be towards east. In the night, it will be on the noon. When it is in the noon, it will be on the straight position. In the evening, it will be on the west, so that maximum energy can be harnessed. This particular device, we have done the performance evaluation under techno-economic analysis. We understood that for drying prawns, the collector efficiency goes to 42%, about 42%. In drying efficiency is 37%, which is generally at least 10% extra compared to the traditional drying systems. Then the cost of production in this particular dryer comes 2 rupees. Also the payback period is 1.5 years, and the BC ratio is 1.62. This particular innovation we also patented. On the similar line, we have a solar gasifier dryer. I think most of you are aware there are biomass dryers. The dried wood material will be put into the furnace, then the furnace will be fired. Then when the smoke also will come, you will try to get the heat and then get the product dried. But what happens, lot of smoke is generated in this process. So we have made one small innovation here. We brought in the unit called a gasifier. When you are putting the wood materials, dried wood materials, instead of firing it, we do a anaerobic condition. Limited air supply will be there. Then it will not properly combust. It will form a gas called a producer gas, which has maximum carbon monoxide, methane, hydrogen. So that particular gas will be produced just like the LPG which has methane, ethane. It is having carbon monoxide and other components. So this will be fired and then heat will be generated. Just like the other dryer, when there is no sunshine, this gasifier system will be used and then drying can be continued. On similar lines, we also have a solar tunnel dryer. This, there is a chance you also must have come across greenhouse technology. So here we are having the polythene sheet, UV stabilized polythene sheets are there, and it is a low cost dryer. You know, when it comes to standard dryers, it costs 2 to 3 times than this dryer. So here we are using the locally available materials, PVC pipes, polythene sheets. There are some small fans which can be connected with the photovoltaic panels. So here also we are getting efficiency of about 20%, and the unit cost of production is only 0.45 rupees per kg. Here we are also having a permanent setup in which the polycarbonate sheets can be also used. On the similar line, I am also working on, we have developed a system that is called SMS alert system for the dryer users. Whatever dryers I was explaining, those dryers, a farmer or a fisher keeping the material and he don't know what is the status of drying, whether it is completely dried or what is the status, or he may have other work to attend. So if he is on other duty, he can get the details on drying to the mobile itself. That particular frequency we can set on a real-time basis. The individual can get the detail. We are using a load sensor here, and we are having a Arduino board, a microcontroller, which is connected with a GSM module. So as and when the product is kept for drying, you can see in the slides, the material is kept for drying. Such information is sent to the user. Then on a frequent interval, set interval, you will be getting what is the moisture content of the product and how much drying has happened. So even if you are not aware what type of things are happening in the drying system, you will come to know, yes, my product is completely dried, I can take it. So such system also we have developed, and we have received the copyright from a copyright office. Then the another invention I was doing, I am having a project on developing a system that is photovoltaic thermal system. So initially in the drying setup I was talking about solar thermal collector, and we are also aware of photovoltaic system. So here I am trying to combine both photovoltaic and thermal system, in which the electrical and thermal performance can be improved. You know, generally we feel like when the PV panel is there, if sufficient sunshine is there, you will get lot of electricity. That is not the case. If the temperature of the panel is going above every 1 degree Celsius, you are having a decrease in electrical efficiency, 0.5%. So we have to reduce the temperature of the panel. At the same time, whatever energy that is we are removing from the panel can be used for also different purposes. So we are using a coil, cooperative coil system on the bottom of the PV panel. When there is a high temperature, the water will be circulated in the tubes. So this water will absorb heat from the panel and raise the electrical efficiency. Similarly, the water incoming water also get heated up. So both the way, it is a cogeneration system. So hot water also can be taken. Then similarly, electrical efficiency also can be improved. You can see that when we are doing the water cooling, the thermal efficiency of about 58.77% we are getting. Whereas if we are having a nanofluids rather than water, we can also improve the efficiency to about 71%. The another aspect I am working on is that developing a refrigerated fish vending kiosk. You know, the fish selling in the roadsides. Everybody is aware that the fisherwomen, they are selling in the roadsides, you know, lot of flies. They will have a thermocol box, they put inside, take it out, do with a cloth, they will remove the flies. And you know, lot of contamination. So there was a request from the then fisheries minister. Srimati Mercikuti Amma was there to CAFT, and she requested that this particular hygienic setup has to be developed on a war footing basis. Then we have taken up this device. This is called a refrigerated system. So in fact, we intended to have as a mobile unit. At present, it can be put it in a retail shop. Here, we are having a chiller. It is a chiller cum storage system. About 4 degrees Celsius, the material can be stored. At the same time, you can see the fish. So we will also have a signboard in the front. You can see what type of fishes the shop person is selling and its rate. What is the per kg rate also you can see. You go there and select the fish, then it can be taken and properly descaled. What you are seeing in the table is the descaling machine. It is a hand operated system. you have to put the fish inside and slowly rotate. When you are rotating, the scales will be removed, about 95%. So you remove it, if required you cut it and then clean it. It is just like a hygienic handling and marketing system we have developed it, and we have also registered for design. Here also the BC ratio is about 1.86. The other important aspect what I am working on is developing a instrumental system to assess fish quality and freshness. You know, when we go to a market, there is always, we feel like whether we are taking the fresh fish, paka, completely fresh. And you must have also come across this, that any person from your family, an elder person goes to a market and bring a fish, the younger one goes. You know, there is a more chance that the younger one bring a spoiled one, because they are not having that experience. So to judge it, how to judge whether it is fresh or not. But I am developing this particular device, a portable device you can carry in the hand. Anybody who takes this device and go there to assess will bring the fresh one, a 10 out of 10. So this particular exercise how I have started. We brought the very fresh fish, day one. So that fish will be stored in the ice continuously for a month. So each day, each fish will be taken. There will be 5 samples. Each fish will be taken and its image will be captured. Then simultaneously that sample will go for lab analysis to assess whether it is fresh or what level the degradation has happened. So we are doing a lab analysis by assessing K value and TPC count. Other side, I am going for a machine learning technique, recurrent neural network technique, in which I am trying to capture the images in different angles using different capturing mediums, including mobile, webcam, cameras, digital cameras, so that we create a database of about 1 lakh photographs per day for each day. So I will be having first day photo, 1 lakh photos. Similarly, for all 30 days, I will be having photographs. So now through the machine learning system, we will train the system so that when tomorrow any other sample is fed, it will tell which day fish it is. And other side, simultaneously, I am evaluating with the lab also. For example, for first 3 days you have stored in a ice. 4th day, that quality has degraded. It has gone to spoiled stage. The lab analysis will tell. So such information I will take it for my categorization purpose. Machine learning I will be using it for deciding the which day fish it is. So by doing this particular exercise, we have come across, we understood that for the Indian mackerel, the prediction accuracy is about 85%. Out of 10 fish we test in our device, about 85% chance is that we can assure that it will be a good fish. Gift tilapia also about 93%, sardine also about 90% we get it. Here, you can also see in the slides, it will give you a result like whether it is extremely fresh. Also, it will tell how many days old it is. For example, tomorrow you go to a market and this is basically an image capturing system. I am trying to capture the fish eye image. So when there is a degradation happens, there will be changes in the fish eye, like development of opaqueness, changes in the colors, which you cannot see from your naked eye. When you go there, first day and third day, you may not have any difference. But when you take an image processing with machine learning, you can identify the minute changes. So that is our principle under this. Then this particular results will come like, this is 4-day old or 3-day old. It will also tell us how many days further you can store it, provided your eye storing it. So such information also we can get. This particular device we have already taken the design registration. Also the algorithm we have used also has been copyrighted. And I am also working on optimizing energy and water for the industries, and also I am working on refrigeration systems. Then there is another important activity was developing a live fish transportation system. Everybody knows that fish sold in the live condition fetches more price, but as of now there is no commercial transportation device available. So this particular device will have a system to reduce the water temperature, will have a system for aeration, filtration. So this unit we have tried it for gift tilapia, and there was a survival of 75%. Then I am also working on solar based applications, solar hire dryer, solar feed dispensers, solar refrigerator, fish vending kiosk, and other areas. So in total, we have a patent on solar LPG hybrid dryer and filed a patent for live fish transportation system. have a copyright for 3 algorithms and filed 2 systems. And I have a design registration for 4 units, and one has been filed. And you know, that type of dryers I was telling you has been already commercialized. So you can see that about solar hybrid dryers, more than 50 has been commercialized, kiosk also. Then 24 consultancy agreements also has been carried out under these events. I have a publication in international referred journals having impact factor of average 5, about 24. Then couple of conference papers, book chapters. The only thing is that we have taken it to the field. Whatever things has been developed has been protected using intellectual property rights we have taken. Then it has been commercialized, and all our technologies are in the field. It is starting from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. Our dryers, descaling machine, fish vending kiosk are there. And these are all the dry fish brands, which were those were incubated from ICRC AIT Cochin, and with the help of our dryers. So you can see such brands are already available. Some of the newspaper clippings on our hybrid drying systems. And you can also see that for developing such solar-based systems, indigenous equipments in the forest fisheries field, we have been recognized by Koch group by the Koch Order of Merit Award, Koch Evergreen Platinum Award. We have also a recipient of Kerala State Energy Conservation and Commendation Certificate 2018 by Energy Management Center. Also, there was a Kerala State Renewable Energy Akshaya Urja Award and a Commendation Certificate from ANAT, Government of Kerala. And there was a Low Cost Technology Development Award 2018 from Association of Food Scientists and Technologists of India, Mysore. And for the last year, I have received a AFST Young Scientist Award for development of the indigenous equipments and tools. Thank you, one and all, for patient listening.
So thank you, Dr. S. Murli. That was a wonderful presentation of the work done and the inventions that you have made. No wonder why you're the recipient of the Kerala State Young Scientist Award. For the
Thank you.
Wonderful work. The next presenter is Dr. Harsha Bajaj of CSIR NIST Thiruvananthapuram. She is joining us in the virtual mode and joining remotely from a location.
Am I audible? Ah, please let me know when to start. Huh? Hello. Yes, sir. Okay, shall I start then? Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So, I'm Dr. Harsha Bajaj from CSI NIST. I'll actually begin by thanking the organizers for giving me such a wonderful opportunity, both Kerala Science Congress as well as the committee members of Kerala Young Scientist Award. And today I'll give a very brief outline of the contributions that I have made while working at CSIR NIST, which is titled Engineering Synthetic Cell Membrane to Decipher Molecular Cell Functionalities. Before I begin with this, I'll give a very brief introduction also about my PhD and postdoc work, and then I'll move on to the work that I have performed in Kerala. So I have done my PhD at Jacobs University in Germany, in one of the largest public and private funded consortium called as New Drugs for Bad Bugs Translocation, which included several large pharmaceutical companies as well as several academic partners whose major goal was to address the issue of antimicrobial resistance, especially in escape pathogens. One of the major goals in this particular consortium was to understand the poor permeability of molecules, because these pharma companies had one major issue. They had several lead compounds that had very good affinities to their targets inside the cells. However, most of these molecules did not work against gram negative, particularly gram negative bacterium, simply because these molecules could not cross the membrane barrier of these gram negative pathogens. And this is actually one of the major reasons why there has been a discovery void, especially for new class of antibiotics against such gram negative pathogens. Basically, to reiterate or to stress importance of this permeability, I would like to give you an example from my PhD work, where we investigated the antibiotic uptake or transport across porins of clinical strains from clinical strains of E. coli. And in this, what we investigated or what we found was that there was an altered permeability of antibiotics across such mutant porins which were present in the clinical strains of E. coli, which actually contributed or resulted in increased resistance or incremental antibiotic resistance across such clinical strains. In fact, what we also observed was that if there is a single mutation in these porins, there is a modification of antibiotic flux, which in turn results in incremental antibiotic resistance. During this study, which was published in JVC, we also found that there are several inherent challenges or unresolved challenges when we come to talking about antibiotic transport specifically. One of them is lack of robust permeability assays that actually hinders the quantification of such antibiotic uptake. That is one of the major unresolved challenge in this particular field. So during my PhD and postdoc, that is what I worked on. Two major goals, and especially in this consortium, these were the two major goals. One was to develop a robust permeability assay that can help us to quantify antibiotic uptake and use this data to come up with general rules of permeability, which was the second goal during our consortium and during my PhD and postdoc work. So that is what I focused on during my postdoc work. One was to develop novel technologies. One of them was to be where we developed a quantitative assay which was based on fluorescence using a microfluidic chip device, where we studied or quantified the uptake of antibiotics across porins that were embedded in liposome based membranes, and then we quantified the uptake of antibiotic using fluorescence as detection system. This was one of the technologies that we developed. And the second one the second goal that we focused on was deciphering such kind of transport rules. Once we got data from here, we could decipher certain rules of transport, especially for small molecules, where what we saw was we used a multidisciplinary approach, including such assays single molecule biophysics technique as well as MD simulations. And we saw that there is an interplay between the dipole of the molecule, the flexibility of the molecule, that aligns to the intrinsic electric field of such porins, that allows the permeation of such molecules, or this basically decides whether a molecule will have good permeation or not so good permeation. Not so good permeation. We could come up with certain assays and such kind of assays and such kind of rules which could define such general transport data. However, one of the major lacking lacuna in these most of these assay was they were all done under lipid membranes which were not mimicking very well the gram negative bacterial membranes. So there was a lack of biomembrane based quantitative transport assays. In the sense, most of these assays that we performed used synthetic lipids, and they remotely mimic the gram negative bacterial membranes, which is actually the first line of defense, because of which there is, an inherent resistance, or the molecules are not able to permeate properly. So once I moved back to India, that is what I wanted to focus on, to basically develop such biomembrane mimicking assays that will closely mimic the gram negative, especially gram negative bacterial membranes. And that is what we did once I moved to India, with the help of a couple of grants, Biocare grant and Hargobind Khurana IYBF fellowship at CSI Ernest. This is one of the biomimicking membrane models where we used giant unilamellar vesicles as the model system, and we mimic both gram positive as well as gram negative lipid membranes or systems. In gram positive, we mimicked specifically Staphylococcus aureus lipid membranes. And in case of gram negative, we mimic both the inner membrane as well as outer membrane using directly lipid extracts from cells. And here, the microscopic images, that is what you see, these are basically nothing but giant unilamellar vesicles. And here what you see is the conformation that as the outer membrane is very complex, it also has a very specific or a very special lipid called as glycolipid, called as bacterial glycolipid, called as lipopolysaccharide. And here we not only confirm the presence, that there is a presence of LPS in our models, but we also went on to quantify how much of LPS is present, whether does this closely mimic the gram negative outer membrane that is present in the bacterial cell. And that is why this is indeed one of the first outer membrane mimicking model available, that is available in literature, because we not just show the presence of LPS, but we also show in terms of the quantification, the composition, as well as to some extent the arrangement. That is, LPS is arranged more or less in an asymmetric way, and in our systems also we are close to putting them in an asymmetric way. So what is the next step? So the next step was to quantify basically antibiotics, or to quantify antibiotic transport, and that is what we did. So here we quantified antibiotic transport again using fluorescence as detection system. So I'll just show you one example over here as to why our models are so important, and how they are different from what has been done in literature. So here you see basically a giant unilamellar vesicle with antibiotic on the outside, and once the antibiotic can cross the membrane, the giant unilamellar vesicle is then filled with this particular antibiotic, which has an intrinsic fluorescence. And here what I show you is the quantitative permeability coefficient, or the uptake data. And what I'm showing you over here is the LPS vesicle that we have developed in our lab, and we quantified the uptake of this particular antibiotic called as ciprofloxacin. And this we are comparing to the models that are usually used in literature, and you see the uptake data is several orders of magnitude difference. And that is the difference between the assay that we have developed and what is usually used to mimic the so-called gram negative bacterial outer membranes. And this basically reiterates the need that we need to use such kind of lipid membrane assays to actually quantify such kind of data. Of course, the next step was not just working with antibiotic transport simply across lipid membranes, but also to incorporate membrane proteins and then to determine their flux. And we also did that. We went on to incorporate say different kinds of membrane proteins, including OMPEF, OMC from E. coli, as well as alpha hemolysin in gram-positive bacterial membranes. And then we, basically determined the flux of such molecules, and we went on to determine the flux across even single porins across such lipid membranes, basically. And what we came up with, or what we observed in this particular data, was that positive charge, especially positive amine charge on such molecules, was able to enhance transport. That is what we see over here. This is basically data of the same molecule at a different pH. And what happens at these two different pH is that at pH 5, this particular molecule is only positively charged. However, at pH 7, it is zwitterionic. So the molecule is exactly the same. However, just based on the charge difference, the flux is very different. And that is what we could see in many such molecules, was that whenever there is a positive presence of positive amine group, that actually enhances the transport. And this was one of the major conclusions that we could come up with while working on this quantifying antibiotic transport. So, apart from quantifying antibiotic transport, such lipid membrane models that we have developed are very versatile, and they can be used for many different purposes. One of them is to understand assembly mechanisms of pore forming peptides, and here I'm talking about both antimicrobial peptides like melittin, maganin, dermicirin, as well as completely synthetic peptides that are made from all the amino acids, for example. And here what we can come up with, the data that we can come up with, is that we can understand what is the pore formation activity, at what concentrations they work, as well as the lysis activity of such peptides. And the major take home message from the data that we observed over here was that the concentrations at which these peptides worked on our systems was correlating very well with the MIC values of these peptides when they are directly put on bacterial cells, which basically reiterates the fact that our membrane models are very close to lipid membranes, or mimicking the lipid membranes of such gram negative bacterial outer membrane, as well as the inner membrane. So, apart from working on antimicrobials, antimicrobial peptides, and understanding transport and the other mechanisms, such models can also be used to understand very basic or very fundamental membrane biophysics, which is called as the phenomenon of membrane bending. Why am I talking about membrane bending specifically at this point? Is that lipopolysaccharide, or the model that we developed that contains lipopolysaccharide, the lipopolysaccharide lipid itself is a very complex lipid with a highly complex chemical structure, and it is the only bacterial glycolipid. Such glycolipids are present in mammalian cells as well, and in mammalian cells, such glycolipids are known to, allow the membranes to undergo membrane bending, and they help in division of cells. So we wanted to understand the role of LPS in membrane bending in our systems. So, and in fact, what we observed is that vesicles with LPS alone can undergo very different morphologies. So you see over here, there is an LPS vesicle which was initially spherical, and then it undergoes, it starts to constrict, form such kind of daughter vesicles that are connected with nanonecks or even nanotubes. However, such morphologies are completely absent, or such global transformations are completely absent when there is no LPS or the bacterial glycolipid present in the vesicle system. So, what we did, we went on to try to understand quantitatively what is the reason behind this, and we went on to quantify the membrane elastic parameters. So, you can imagine such membranes, or such, giant unilamellar vesicles. I would explain them as, balloons with, which have intrinsic elastic parameters. The moment the material changes, this kind of bending may change, and that is what we tried to quantify over here. So where we quantified spontaneous curvature of such lipid membranes, as well as the bending rigidity, And what we observed was that the rigidity of the OM vesicles with LPS is much lower compared to without LPS, that allows them to undergo such kind of very flexible conformations as you see over here. And the spontaneous curvature is very large, that allows them to be stable in such conformations. So the take home message from here was that such kind of study is one of the first quantitative study, I will say first quantitative study, especially on bacterial glycolipids, and it can have huge implications in understanding cell division. That would be one thing, as well as implication in understanding outer membrane vesicle biogenesis, because outer membrane vesicles come directly or are budded off directly from outer membrane vesicles, and it's nothing but a purely biophysical mechanism where these buds are formed, and then they bud off from the out from the bacterial membranes and form these so-called OMVs. So this is some of the work that we have been doing at CSIR NIST. So apart from using such giant unilamellar vesicles to understand such biophysical mechanisms, we can also use them simply as lipid containers, cell mimicking containers, or you can call them also as, in that sense, synthetic cells. So what you can use them for, apart from whatever I have shown you until now, you can also use them simply as containers where you can engineer specifically their permeability, because as we are as our lab has expertise especially to determine the transport, quantify transport, here we were also able to engineer such vesicles so that they are able to uptake only certain range of molecules in terms of their molecular weight. Especially one project that we designed was these lipid containers could uptake molecules only with certain molecular size or has a molecular cutoff. And in this particular case, above 3000 kilodalton molecules could not cross such membranes. They can be used to engineer such kind of synthetic cells, and this can then be used to understand something called as condensate assembly. So let me just briefly explain you what is a condensate. Condensate is a biomolecular condensate, what I'm talking about. Such condensates are basically omnipresent in all the cells, you from going from prokaryotic cells to even eukaryotic cells, and they are nothing but, as the name suggests, liquid phase separated assemblies. So you all must be aware, most of you will be aware of different kinds of membrane based organelles. These condensates or assemblies are basically membrane less organelles, and the dysfunction of such membraneless organelles has been known to cause many different diseases. One of the very well-known diseases is Alzheimer's diseases, for example. So what we wanted to do was that we wanted to study the assembly and disassembly processes of such condensates inside such cell mimicking or cell like containers. And so what we did was that we drove this whole assembly and disassembly processes using enzymes, like how it happens in cells, inside cells, where we encapsulated enzymes which can cause assembly as well as disassembly, and then we triggered the such coacervation or condensate assembly and disassembly by externally adding substrates to our semi-permeable liposomes. And then once that happens, what you see over here, basically the red part over here is a lipid membrane, which contains what you call over here are different molecules, including enzymes and coacervate forming systems, which are dissolved completely. The moment we add the substrate for the enzyme, such small assembly starts to form. These are nothing but, so once before, just exactly at the point of addition, they are completely dissolved. The moment you add the substrates, such small tiny condensate assemblies start to form. They start to merge together. They start to merge together and form such a large condensate, basically. And the same can be done in a reversible way. The moment you add the substrates for the enzyme that can trigger the disassembly process, this these assemblies now dissolve back into this sort of state. And this, why is this so important? This is very important because in cells, to understand such assembly and disassembly process is very complex, because as you can see, they are not membrane bound organelles, so their half life in cells is very short, very short, which can range from probably a few seconds to few minutes. That's it. So you need to have such kind of platforms to understand these kind of assembly and disassembly processes, which will have huge implications in when you talk about different other diseases, like I told about Alzheimer's disease, which is formed due to fibrillation of one of the proteins. But however, the initial state is supposed to be such kind of condensate based assembly. So to understand such kind of processes, we need to have such kind of cell mimicking systems, where you need to have lipid membrane containers, so that if there is any interaction between condensates and lipid, do they have any roles, those can be basically investigated further. And these can also be used to understand, for example, the functionality per se of the biomolecular condensates, because such condensates are known to sequester many different kinds of molecules, including enzymes and small drugs especially. And that is what also I show you over here, is that once the condensate assembly is formed, different molecules present over here start to basically sequester. Here I show you one of the enzymes called as creatine kinase, and these are different drugs and small hydrophilic molecules that are able to sequester. And you can also quantify the properties of such biomolecular condensates inside such synthetic cell containers. So with this, I would like to basically summarize the whole talk, where I would like to just give you a brief summary or overview of what my lab does, and what we are going to aim in future. So basically, we are a membrane biology and membrane biophysics lab, whose major focus until now has been particularly transport of molecules, small molecules, hydrophilic molecules, drugs across membranes, membrane proteins, as well as trying to understand antimicrobial peptide assembly, or in general peptide assembly, that or peptides that can actually cause pore formation or interaction or binding with such lipid membranes. The second topic which we are interested in, and we plan to take it further, are also understanding membrane bending processes, the role of lipids as well as now membrane protein in such lipid bending or membrane bending processes. And the third one, as I showed you, is a very recent and indeed a very new topic all around the globe, that is trying to understand these condensate, biomolecular condensate assemblies. In fact, this biomolecular condensate have recently, very recently, been being seen as drug targets, because until now most of the drugs are always uh, targeted either via proteins or DNA, RNA, but nobody tries to target, or only recently now people have started to target such condensate assemblies as such as drug targets. And for that, you need to understand basic or very fundamental interactions that happens at condensate assemblies, or even try to understand the condensate membrane interaction, whether they generate forces, do they help in synaptic transmissions, etc. And that is what we are focusing on in my lab. And with this, I would like to end my talk. These are some of the achievements that I have got during my time at CSIR NIST. And with this, I would like to thank you all for the attention. Special thanks to the director of our institute, all the NIST members, and of course my lab members, without whom it will be very difficult to show you all of this work, and the funding agencies. So with this, thank you so much.
So that was Dr. Harsha Bajaj, scientist of the CISR NIST Thiruvananthapuram, with her presentation. Since she can't hear a word of thanks, it is Dr. K. Vijay Kumar calling her personally and to say a few word of thanks to her.
Yes, sir. Okay. I hope it went all right. Okay.
Now, to propose the formal vote of thanks, may I call upon Dr. Neetu B., scientist, Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. Madam, please.
Distinguished Speaker, dignitaries and delegates, good evening all. So as we know, the Kerala State Young Scientist Award by KSCST is intended to honor talented young scientists in recognition of their contribution in any branch of science and technology. So first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate our KSYSA award winners. Congratulate, sir. And she couldn't hear it, but congratulate, ma'am. And in continuation, I thank Dr. S. Murali from ICIFT for his presentation and presence today. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge here with us. And I also thank Dr. Harsha from CSI NIST for addressing the gathering online. And thank you, ma'am, for the enlightening session. Now, thanks to Dr. Vijay Kumar, Principal Scientist, KSCST, for delivering the welcome address and also for coordinating the program, the KSYSA program. So, more importantly, thank you to the audience for your active participation. Once again, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Next, we have the poster evaluation for awards, and may I request the registered first author to be present beside his or her poster when the evaluation panel come and visit your posters. This evaluation process will last till 18:30 hours, and from 18:30 hours to 19:30 hours, we have the culture program. And all the delegates and officials, you're invited to the culture program in the MS Swaminathan Hall. That is the same hall where we are assembled now. And post that, we disperse for lunch. So thank you, and see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the E.K. Janaki Ammal Memorial Lecture.